For decades, we all thought the Chernobyl disaster was basically over, contained, locked away under this massive steel shield that was supposed to last for 100 years. Well, we were wrong. Today, we're diving into a critical failure at that very shield. This is an unfolding crisis that has basically reignited the world's most infamous nuclear nightmare. So let's break down what's really going on.
And look, this isn't just speculation. This is the official and frankly chilling assessment from the world's top nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, delivered in early 2026. The structure that we all counted on to protect the world is, for all intents and purposes, broken. And the implications of that? Well, they're absolutely staggering. So, you gotta ask, right? How did this happen? How did a state-of-the-art, multi-billion-dollar containment arch, this absolute marvel of engineering, fail so catastrophically? The answer, it turns out, starts with a single, devastating event.
To really get a grip on this failure, first, we've got to understand the situation on the ground right now. We are not looking back at ancient history here. This is a live, ongoing emergency.
As we speak, the entire Chernobyl exclusion zone is running under emergency protocols. That new safe confinement, the NSC, it's no longer the hermetically sealed fortress it was designed to be. It's been breached. And that delicate balance it was built to maintain, it's gone.
Everything changed on one single day, February 14th, 2025. This was the moment, the inciting incident that set off this whole devastating chain reaction.
So, in the early morning hours, a Shahed 136 drone hit the northern section of the arch. Now, the impact didn't just punch a hole, it actually ignited the specialized polymers inside the roof layers. And get this. This was not a simple fire. It smoldered and burned deep inside the structure for almost 3 weeks. That's 3 weeks of completely uncontrolled damage. The immediacy of the damage was just stunning. The initial blast punched a clean hole right through the roof, 6 meters in diameter. We're talking about the length of a large SUV. It was a direct breach into what was supposed to be an impenetrable sanctuary.
But that 6-meter hole, as bad as it was, that was just the entry wound. The blast and that fire that followed damaged the cladding all around it over a much wider area, something like 200 square meters. To put that in perspective, think of a large 2-bedroom apartment. That's the size of the wound in Chernobyl's protective skin.
And this is where the real disaster truly begins. The physical breach was bad, sure, but what it set in motion was far, far worse. It was a cascade of failures, each one triggering the next.
The logic here is just terrifyingly simple. It's like dominoes. First, the roof gets breached. Okay. Second, water just pours in from firefighters trying to kill the blaze and then just from the rain. This completely destroys the super dry environment that the NSC was specifically designed to maintain. Third, all that moisture starts eating away at the already crumbling 1986 sarcophagus that's inside. And then finally, the most dangerous step of all, that water seeps down to the nuclear fuel, creating a brand new, terrifying risk. So you might be wondering, why is water such a villain in this story? Well, it all comes down to a concept called neutron moderation. In simple terms, water acts kind of like a brake for neutrons. By slowing them down, it makes them way more likely to trigger another fission event, a nuclear chain reaction. So the presence of water in there is essentially like turning up the dial on the risk of the reactor's remains sputtering back to life.
And remember, all of this chaos is happening right on top of what is arguably the most dangerous object on the planet, the elephant's foot. But here's the kicker. While the shield above it was breaking, the beast below was also changing, transforming into something even more hazardous. The nature of the threat has completely flipped on its head. Back in '86, the elephant's foot was like a solid piece of radioactive lava. The main danger was gamma radiation. You just couldn't get near it. But today, after decades of self-irradiation, it has literally crumbled into a pile of sand and dust, and that has shifted the hazard entirely.
This is the part you really need to understand. The threat is no longer just being near the elephant's foot. Now the risk is that radioactive dust becoming airborne, of you breathing it in. An external threat has become a potential internal one. And with the containment shield now breached, the risk of that dust escaping is higher than it has ever been.
So with a broken shield and a crumbling monster right underneath it, what happens now? Well, this brings us to the present day, and what is basically a desperate race against the clock to try and regain control.
Okay, so what's the game plan? Well, the absolute #1 priority is fixing that roof. Emergency crews have slapped on some temporary patches, but a full €60 million repair project is already underway for later this year.
At the same time, they're playing defense down below, using remote-controlled robots to spray a special polymer, it's kind of like a glue, onto the elephant's foot to stop that dust from going anywhere.
But this whole crisis has forced experts to confront two very difficult long-term options. See, the original plan was to robotically dismantle the elephant's foot. The fact that it's now like sand actually makes it easier to scoop up. The downside? Oh, it's a big one. The process would kick up a catastrophic amount of radioactive dust. So the alternative is just to bury the whole thing in concrete. But that raises the terrifying possibility of radioactive elements slowly leaching into the groundwater for thousands of years. There are just no easy answers here.
So if you put it all together, the status report for the site right now is it's just stark. The physical state of the fuel is now friable, which means there's a huge inhalation risk. The neutron status is fluctuating, meaning that risk of criticality is real and being monitored. And of course, the NSE integrity is compromised. Every single critical safety meter is flashing red, and the entire fix depends on stable funding and regional security. And that leaves us right here with this one massive, ultimate question. For 40 years, the story of Chernobyl has been about containment, about sealing a monster away. But now, with both the seal and the monster beneath it literally falling apart, we have to ask a new, deeply unsettling question. Can a crumbling shield truly contain a crumbling giant? The answer is going to define the next chapter of the Chernobyl legacy.